Welcome to the Bear Talk, your go-to Chicago Bears podcast, where a father and son break down all things Bears. From Soldier Field to Sunday Showdowns, I'm your host here, Dylan Weaver, and as always, joined here with my dad. We got a special guest with us today, Drew Campbell, CEO and founder of Athlete Factory Agency, also an NFL agent, does a little inside on the NIL as well. It's a pleasure to have you, Drew. Thank you so much for joining us today, man.
Absolutely. Happy to be on.
Awesome. How you doing, Dad? You doing good?
I'm doing great because football, once again, is back in full swing with the NFL draft approaching. And what an amazing way to kick off, season 2, episode 1, having a guest like Drew on, who can kind of give us a little bit of insight at, NIL is relatively new in the world of football. And ultimately, the draft is coming up. We're all excited for the draft. I'm a little disappointed, also excited at the same time. I mean, we're picking 25. It's tough to be excited about 25, but that only means we had a great year last year, and I think we're going to repeat this year.
I mean, I'd rather be picking 25 than picking in the top 10 because it's been 5 years of picking in the top 10, and we've been terrible. So Bears are finally relevant again, as they should be, thanks to Ben Johnson. Ryan Poles is starting to cook up, coming off a good draft class last year. Let's hope he can do it this year on the defensive side of the ball. But, Drew, we're just going to fire off some questions, man. This is kind of your floor. We're super excited to have you here. As an NFL fan, this is like a dream come true talking to someone like you that's involved in this world. Get to also see a little bit behind the scenes. We watch the football games. We see all the little stuff we think we know about, and then there's a whole nother world behind the scenes. And like you said, Dad, with the draft coming around the corner, I mean, this is a perfect way to kick it off. Football feels like it's finally around the corner. All these other sports, yeah, they're fun to watch, but nothing compares to football. So I'll kick it off to you, Drew. Like, what got you started in this world? Like, maybe what was your passion to get into this, and how did you really get into this space?
Yeah, I think anybody that's in football obviously is a fan of football, and that was true for me from my dad turning on my first game, probably before I was 4. But remembering the Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, AFC playoff games back when I was a kid, like those what really drove me to love football, always watching, Sunday morning, watching highlights from the night before of all the college games I missed, Monday morning, watching the Sunday game, Tuesday morning, watching the Monday night game, like always looking forward to, football being like my sport, and, didn't know how to get into the space. Obviously, like if you don't play, it's a little more difficult. I'm 5'7". And so I was not physically equipped to go play football. So really wanted to get into the space after college. I was graduated with my undergrad degree during COVID, so it was a little bit of a tricky time. So, once I kind of figured everything out, what I wanted to do, kind of jumped in really blindly to the space. I had no connections when I jumped in. I had no connections to any scouts, college players, NFL scouts, college teams. Like there was nothing. So everything I built was from the ground up, and wanting to build something was always a dream of mine on top of working in sports. So I was able to combine the two together, and crazy to say this, but 4 years later, here I am 8 days away from hopefully having a couple draft picks in next week's draft.
Yeah, dude, that's awesome, man. Like, as a sports person, looking back, like I love what I do now. I love, accounting. I love numbers, but if I could go back, I definitely would hop a little bit into the sports world. It's kind of why we started this podcast last year, just for fun. We're obviously diehard Bears fans, but just talking about football, the game of football, and having something to bond over. Quick question too: you growing up, you got an NFL team you like that you root for?
I'm born and raised Northeast Florida, so I'm at heart a Jaguars fan. So that was my team growing up. So I've experienced my fair share of, I wouldn't even say heartbreak. It was just week in, week out disappointment. sometimes when they won, it was almost more disappointing because this is the time of year most Jaguars fan always looked forward to. So if you won, you just slide back in the draft. No, but I mean, I remember vividly from, being a kid, especially like once I understood the NFL a little more, like watching drafts, being excited when they traded up for Blake Bortles, or back in like 2011, they drafted Blaine Gabbert in the first round. Like I was like 11, 12 years old and I was on top of it, so I think it makes sense to why I'm doing what I'm doing for sure. But yeah, Jaguars fan at heart.
Well, you're kind of in a similar boat with us. I know they've had some rough years. Both teams last year got their new head coach. Liam Cohen got them in a playoff appearance last year, got them on the ground running. No one's really been able to get Trevor Lawrence to that kind of potential that he was coming into draft night. And Liam Cohen seems like he's got him going in the right direction. So that's pretty cool to see. And obviously the Bears, we talk about all the time, but Ben Johnson, we call him our savior over here. I mean, the fact that this guy took a job and changed it in year one, just like Liam Cohen, I mean, I feel like they were both up there for Coach of the Year candidates. Yep. It was a good season for the Jaguars as it was for the Bears, but with the draft coming around the corner, like you said, 8 days away, next Thursday starts up round one. I believe it's up in Pittsburgh, if I'm not mistaken, draft night. But how do you is there a preparation process you go through to get some of these players ready for draft night? What are kind of some of the stuff in between that, leads up to the draft, with your clients?
Yeah. So it's a deep process. It kind of goes back to me not being like me starting this from scratch, and I do things my way that I think are right. And the success comes from, just having my own process and no bad habits or whatever the case may be. But preparations start long time, just like NFL teams. They're scouting throughout the college football season. Us agents are doing the same thing. There's, people already working on 2027. And it's always nets, always nets, always nets. And that is football. It's always nets. And football in college football, it's Nets man up. In the NFL, it's Nets man up. It's always the Nets Super Bowl. It's always the Nets game. So for us, we do a lot of heavy recruiting throughout the spring, summer for the following draft. And then obviously as the season goes on, those numbers and those position rankings can fluctuate based on how, individual athletes are doing. So we use the football season as kind of like a steadfast program of like, who do we want to attack? Who do we want to go after? Who do we think has the traits and athletic abilities to make it to the next level? Once that settles down and the national championship is over, there are a lot of things that can help elevate athletes' draft stocks and things that we have to do as agents to put them in that position. I'm sure you guys have seen the Senior Bowl, Shrine Bowl. There's other all-star games like the American Bowl, Hula Bowl, Dream Bowl. Like there's a bunch of them, right? We want to make sure for us, and like those games sometimes happen early January. So in December, once that client's committed to us, we're working for them to get them into an all-star game so they can, have an opportunity to display their talents in front of, scouts and, talent evaluators for these teams. And that kind of kickstarts the process. You also have to set them up with a training facility that can help improve their 40-yard dash. When you see a guy run a 4.2, 4.3 at the combine, they probably weren't running that in January. They spent 8 weeks at a training facility working specifically on those track and field events. So that's a really important process that we go through as well. Preparing them on the media interview side of things, making sure they're able to answer questions, articulate with NFL teams and player personnel people in those departments. And then, from there, that's on the player side of things. Internally with the agency, I have a group of people on our team that builds out, like we have a safety on our client list this year. We have broken down every safety contract on all 32 teams. Prepared to analyze what is going to be the best fit for him. It's obviously talking with teams, seeing what their feedback is. And there's a lot that goes into it. It's not just wait until day 1, day 2 of the draft, hoping the phone rings. There's a lot of preparation that goes into it, and just really analyzing every different little pocket of a team, essentially.
Awesome. Yeah. I bet. I mean, it kind of reminds me of watching that movie Draft Day. Like, you see glimpses of it, but like you said, this is a long awaited process that you said, like, it takes place. And obviously, like you said, those bowl games, those are big for players. You often see that's where people's like draft stock sort of rise, or puts people on the map. Like, a lot of people might not have been talking about someone, but they go to a Senior Bowl or something, and then they play, against the best of the best, and they shine, and people's draft stock shoots up. Sometimes too it could shoot down. There's a lot of stuff that goes into that stuff, but I'm sure it's pretty cool working alongside some of these players. And I'm sure the feeling on draft night is probably amazing too, when a player gets selected. Like, you kind of feel that excitement that they feel. You help them in a part of their journey to get, that's what every kid dreams of when they start any sport, is making it to the pros. And I'm sure it's got to be a special moment working with some of these athletes.
Yeah, definitely is. Obviously they put way more into it. Most of them probably been playing football since they were 3, 4, 5 years old, since they could remember, and a lot of hours, a lot of games, a lot of practices, a lot of sweat and tears. And so, for them to see their dream come true is obviously the best part of draft day. Obviously, there's a lot of tense moments and waiting for the phone to ring, but I think once it rings, there's obviously a lot of excitement. But, for me, excitement and relief as well, that, everything in the process from point A to point Z has gone correctly.
Yeah.
I gotta imagine, I guess a quick question is, as you take these athletes through the process and then you finally see their life works come to fruition, I gotta imagine you as the individual who helps them through that whole process with you and your team, that's probably like a proud moment for you. Can you talk a little bit about that feeling you have when they do, get to that moment, or at least get that opportunity to have that potential?
Yeah, I think it's kind of surreal, because I'm just such a small point in their life process, right? And mom and dad put them in sports at 5 years old, and now they're 22, 23, however old they are, and I'm in it for 6 months, right? I'm blessed and honored enough for them to trust me, help them through the process, because as cliche as I'm sure it sounds, like, they only get to do this process once. They don't get to declare for the draft twice. They don't get to go through this process twice. Not yet with NIL. Who knows? Could come around. But you know what I mean? Like, they don't get to go through this process twice, though. And they don't get to, so they have to trust me, trust my relationships, trust what I can do and add value, and that I'm putting them in the right training facility with the right trainer, with, making sure their meal plans right, make sure they have physical. There's a lot of like little nuanced practices. Make sure they have a good place to sleep at night. They have reliable transportation to and from a training facility. Like, there are a lot of little tiny details that we have to make sure is in place, because if there's a point in this process that goes wrong, every day from the last game till draft day is very, very valuable. We don't get a lot of off days and point in times to relax. Sure, there's a weekend day here or there, but like I got a client that just got off a 30 visit with Las Vegas today, and he's been busy. I told him to take some time this weekend, because 2 or 3 more weekends from now, you got the draft and you got rookie mini camps. He's not going to be home and being able to relax until a couple weeks in the summer, and the next thing you know. So yeah, I think it's just a surreal moment, and just kind of see that light up their world, that they have an opportunity to play in the NFL is really unique.
Question. This might sound like a dumb question, so you can tell me, but
You're good.
As your agent, like getting these players, drafted, let's just say, for example, one of your clients gets drafted, would you still be representing them in the NFL? Like, let's just say, for example, you have a player get drafted, they go through their rookie contract, they're up for a contract extension. Would you still be the one handling that, like, going forward?
As long as everything goes right between the relationship
Yeah.
athlete to player, yeah, that's obviously the goal, is like you want to hold on to your client, and they have the trust that you can negotiate that second deal. And that's what every athlete should dream for, right? You don't want to, like, when you're running your 40-yard dash, you don't want to run to the 40, you want to run through the 40. Same thing applies from a play standpoint. You want to be like, screw this rookie contract. Like, your rookie contract and base salary, whether you're the last man signed or Fernando Mendoza, that base salary is the same. So, like, you want to go for that. You want to push for that second contract. That's where
the money,
genuine life-changing money is.
Yeah, I mean, it'd probably be pretty cool one day to have Adam Schefter tweeting out on Free Agency Monday, just, deal done by, your name's right there. I mean, that would be insane, honestly. Just thinking about that. That is one thing I do like in the offseason that is fun, those 3 or 4 days where it's just players are getting traded left and right. Your team's cutting people, they're getting new people in. It's kind of cool to see all these players get traded. And you might not think about it as, an average football fan, but there's agents involved in that, doing all that, working those deals out to get their player, to a new team, or get them, like you said, that new deal, second year, that second contract in the NFL, like you talked about, where it truly is. That's where the money is, where it's just life-changing, where you can set up generations down the pipeline for you and, others to come along the way. So it's just, this stuff honestly just all blows my mind. And it's just so cool to me seeing the process a little bit behind the scenes of all this stuff works. I guess I know my dad was a little bit interested in the NIL stuff, so we can kind of talk about that as well, because NIL, I'm sure you work with some people in the transfer portal, but do you also work with people like fresh out of high school, like getting ready to go into their freshman year with those NIL deals, or are those NIL deals, mostly for people transferring schools per se?
It's changed. We got our client list. We're up to about 12 on the NIL side right now. We're going to continue to grow that. The goal is to get it 20 to 30 based on our athlete to agent ratio that we have, that I hold standard to. But incoming freshmen, I'm not seeing a lot of money there for incoming freshmen. I think unless you're like a top 300 4-star, 5-star player. I think Indiana has changed the philosophy of some of these teams that have not been good for a long time. Your big schools are still going to recruit well. Your Blue Bloods, your Oklahoma, Alabama's, Notre Dame's, your Texas, Ohio State's, all those schools are going to continue to recruit those 4 or 5-star talents. But I think the perception of how rosters can be built to win at the collegiate football level has changed drastically with what Indiana just accomplished. Like 3 years ago, Indiana was 3-9.
Yeah.
And then you back it up with an 11-2 and follow it up with a 16-0 national championship. And that's because they hired a new coach who came in, utilized the transfer portal, and really built a roster that fit their scheme with people in the transfer portal, right? Like they brought in the appropriate quarterback to fit that scheme. They brought in, they had appropriate wide receivers in Surratt and Charlie Becker, and like those, there's a lot of key pieces in place. So I think that's changed quite a bit to where a lot of the money now, from what I've seen and had experience with, at least on my end, is not reserved for transfer portal, but that's definitely where a lot more money is allotted, or retaining proven talent at a school, right? I think there's a lot of unknown with incoming freshmen, but like I said, I think your 4 and 5 stars are definitely getting something. They're not getting anything.
Yeah.
It's definitely a mix. There's You're retaining your top talent, you're retaining their starting quarterback, your starting left tackle. You're going out to get your wide receiver one, and then you got your 4 or 5-star wide receiver that you're really high on. Like, you're building out your roster that makes sense for you, where you're not just trying to set yourself up for that season, but future seasons as well.
Yeah, I would like to, one, kudos to you. Obviously, much success on your end, being a fan of football like we are. And you talked a little bit about the 5'7", right? So I'm 5'7" myself, not very athletically gifted whatsoever. My son got most of those, probably through his mother, with him playing in college. But nonetheless, you still had a dream. You chased after it, and now you've entered this world. I think that the NFL is the largest league, as far as sports and value in the world. And so you think about, all that success you have. So anyone who's listening to the podcast now or watching, and, they want to know about the Athlete Factory and kind of the mission statement that you've set forth as you've, accomplished this dream of yours, and now you're focused on helping those, achieve their ultimate dream by, either playing at the highest level in NCAA or, making it to the NFL draft and going forward into the pros. Talk a little bit to maybe some of the audience out there of what's the mission statement of, the Athlete Factory, and what's your mission to help them succeed?
Yeah. The basis of it, like I built the agency on leadership, excellence, legacy. The leadership value of that is being a leader in the locker room, on and off the field, in your community. The excellence is trying to doing everything you do with excellence, and us in the background doing that as well, whether that's reviewing a contract, helping with a marketing deal, whatever that case may be. And then that legacy is you want to create a legacy for yourself, your family, and everything else, by being able to play the sport of football. It's a really unique opportunity for the individuals we do represent. And we want to maximize every opportunity on and off the field for them, right? And for us, we approach this as a football decision first agency. We've turned down bigger monies in the transfer portal for a better football fit because that helps them achieving their dream in the NFL. We've, picked schools in that transfer portal, same thing, where it wasn't the best fit right this second, but could be a fit the following year if we go back in the transfer portal. It's really helping an athlete who doesn't get to do this twice, goes back to this, navigate their career, because one wrong turn, their career can go completely sideways. If you take a player, send them into the incorrect school, and they make all this money, but they don't play or they play poorly because they weren't ready, then that's on you as an agent, right? So for us, we kind of approach that from a football standpoint. Obviously, being NFL certified, I don't know the agencies. I'm not going to say any names on those, but there's agencies that charge 10, 20% of contracts to NIL clients. Essentially, like we charge 3% like NFL contracts because we want to help them. We're in this together. It's building a relationship with them to where we can trust them to do the right thing. They can trust us to do the right thing. And those are our core principles of what we do when we have conversations with athletes and their parents and explaining to them this process, because usually is a whirlwind for them. It feels like 6 months ago that they were just playing their JV freshman football game. Now all of a sudden, you could be talking less than 5 years later, you're negotiating hundreds of thousands of dollars for your kid to go play, D1 football. So for us, it's helping make sure that those decisions right, making sure that we're protecting them from the legal side of things, making sure we're, helping them achieve their goals off the field. We've done nonprofit foundations for our athletes before because that's what they want to do. We've done YouTube channels and YouTube series with athletes because that was their passion. And that's while they're in football, right? And at some point, everybody's football career comes to an end. There's no doubts about it. Whether you play in the league for 3 preseason games or 23 years like Brady did, your football career comes to an end. So us being a resource for you, helping you transition through football, because like I said, it goes back to you've been playing football since you're 5. It's all you know. So when you're 25 or 35 and done playing football, like how do we help you navigate those next steps in your life? Whether that's help you start a business, get a coaching job, whatever, like just being that resource for you. And for them not having to worry about anything, right? Like you got to worry about football and school if you're in school, and if you're in the NFL, you got to worry about football and keeping your body healthy. And that's what we try to do. Let you guys let the athletes focus on that, and then us as a team will handle the rest without you having to go outsource 1,010 different people to do 3 jobs.
Outstanding. It really sounds like a personalized service you provide, with really the ultimate thing being focused on the athlete and making sure that the journey is a memorable one, but also an enjoyable one through the process. So that's pretty cool. How you describe that and really cater to the athlete in a way more than just a number, I guess, so to speak, maybe as like a larger agency may do, where they're trying to sign mass, right? And bring in as much money as possible. It sounds like you're really going for more of a personalized approach that really caters to the athlete, to the family, not only through the process, but after the process many years down the road. So kudos to you for taking that approach.
Yeah, I think the personalized approach was definitely something that was like implemented very, very early on. And yeah, I mean, no athlete to me will ever be a phone number. Like if an athlete calls me right now, like I'm going to pick up and answer the phone for them. I want them to be able to call for whatever they need. If they want to chop it up because they want to talk football, or if they want to have a conversation about where they're at in their career, like let's have that conversation. And yeah, it kind of goes, like I mentioned a little earlier, like the athlete to agent ratio, like on the NIL side, the NFL side is very important to me. Don't ever want it to be where I got 25, 30 guys under just my personal umbrella. Like that's very, very difficult to manage and make sure I'm doing everything on a day-to-day basis or whenever for those athletes.
Yeah. Exciting.
Yeah, I can agree to that. I think that's, amazing that you're not just there to, make your money essentially and run. You're there building a relationship with these people, with these athletes, and you actually care about them. I feel like you see it, a lot with different people in college as well too, where you can just kind of tell, one thing that just pops in my head. I live out here in Knoxville, and I'm a UT fan for when it comes to college football. But last year with Nico, leaving and, dipping into that transfer portal and, thinking, the grass was going to be greener on the other side, and ultimately ended up at UCLA. And just, it seems like you actually care about these athletes and want what's best for them in their future. And being a former athlete in college, I didn't deal with any NIL stuff. I didn't play at a big enough. I wasn't in D1, but it would be important to me as an athlete to have someone like that in my corner, not someone that's just, out there to take advantage of me, get their money, like I said, and essentially run. But hearing that, you really focus on that relationship with these athletes is amazing. I would, if I was an athlete, that's exactly what I would be looking for.
I appreciate it. Try to set it up to where it's best for them. It's not a copy and paste plan for every athlete. Every athlete and their journey is different, specific to them. And I love a hate-love relationship with player comps. Like you're your own athlete, and like you make your own name for yourself. Don't compare yourself to somebody else. Be your own athlete. Make your own name.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the player comps, they're kind of cool, but for people watching, but at the same time, like you said, just like anything in life, everyone's unique. Everyone has their own abilities. And at the end of the day, everyone wants to go make a name for themselves. It almost seems unfair to some of the athletes when they're out there. Here's the best player comp for this player. Like, why can't we just say, here's their traits. This is how they play. This is what they're good at, and just go from there. But I mean, it really is all this interesting to me, especially the NIL stuff. It's such a new space. Like it's very new, but not even in football, but you're starting to see it in basketball as well get really big. And like you talked about with, Kurt Signetti and what he did at Indiana the past 2 years of bringing in all these, transfers and working the portal to build a championship roster. You saw it with Michigan this year and then at the national champions with the Wolverines. Their whole starting five was all from the transfer portal from this past year, just bringing in the right people to build a team around and, get these, working with these players. And I honestly think it is cool because although I am a Tennessee fan and I root for the SEC in the playoffs, you're in football, I feel like you're starting to see it like you're saying, there's still the good schools like your Alabama, your Ohio States are always going to be at the top, but we've seen it now in 2 years with this expanded playoffs now up to 12 teams. You're seeing a different batch of teams every year kind of get in there, new teams and new faces in there, which I think is cool because at the end of the day, you don't want to see the same schools in there over and over again unless it's your team. Like as a viewer, you want to see, new stuff, new competition. It's like as much as I think Patrick Mahomes is going to go down as one of the best quarterbacks to ever do it, when they win every year, it's like, come on, I want to see somebody else win. But it's just cool now with this NIL era, just seeing, these different programs work the transfer portal with the NIL stuff and bring in a new roster and compete with some of these best of the best teams. Like some of these teams Alabama's losing to these past couple of seasons, this wouldn't have happened years ago. I feel like it really wouldn't have. It's weird and it's unique.
I would be wrong if I didn't bring up one of my favorite schools over the last 2 years that had success because of the transfer portal. And I think you know who I'm talking about there. And the SEC used to be the doormat of the SEC, but Vanderbilt took advantage of the transfer portal as well and what they've been doing. And we'll see what they do next year after they have to do a new batch of athletes there.
Yeah, I think that's what you're just going to continue to see, right? Every school's going to be creative with the way they use the transfer portal. I saw it this year being firsthand in there with teams calling about players I represented in the portal and what the need was. And I think the need was pretty explicit. They want guys that can help them win instantly. And teams go after that, and they want guys that can help. That's what the transfer portal is there. It's to fill voids on your roster and help you win a championship. I think, like I said, Indiana laid the groundwork. If you're a Power 4 school and an AD, every AD at a Power 4 school probably thinks the same thing, whether their team has made the playoff before or never made the playoff. There's probably some sort of expectation for them to, get to the playoff every year based on the way rosters can be rebuilt in literally a flip of a switch in 48 hours with transfer portal now, essentially. So, yeah, I think it's a unique time to say the least.
Yeah, it's definitely insane. It is cool. At first, it was a little weird. I still think with the NIL stuff, they need to fix that college football calendar a little bit with some of the coaching stuff. Like seeing some of these coaches have to make decisions, due to the transfer portal and stuff like that. I mean, I'm not saying I'm the biggest Lane Kiffin fan, but it kind of did suck that, he kind of worked all season with these players and, the LSU thing pops up and it was a little weird. And I understood them not wanting him to coach because he just went to a rival school of the SEC. But at the same time, he's the one that worked with these players. Everyone thinks a football season 2 is just those 4 months of football. No, that they're in spring training right now, working in the off season as an athlete. Even at the small level I was, we're playing year round. We're in the weight room. We're doing 3-a-days. Like no one really sees all the hard work going in. But on the NCAA side, I'd love to see them kind of, find a workaround and restructure that calendar that they got going on. But it's also hard because these players also need to get, where they're going before, time runs out. So it is just a little – I think for the most part it's a really good thing, but I still feel like the schedule, especially on the college side, they need to that committee needs to get together and find a way to work around some of those stuff. And hopefully they do that, because that's what it's all about. Whether it's a business, anything in life, it doesn't have to be football. You're always trying to improve things, find better ways to do things. And if you're not, then what are you even doing?
Couldn't agree more. I definitely think the calendar's a little broke, so we'll see. They're always making rule changes, and at some point it's going to get changed. I go with the flow whenever it does. So
Yeah. No, I hear you. I feel like too, I just don't get why they don't try bringing in Saban to a lot of this stuff now that he's out of coaching. I mean, I bet he's enjoying the media stuff too, but I mean, bringing some of these Hall of Fame coaches that are going to go down in history, they'll be talked about long after we're out of here, but it's just bringing somebody with that experience that can kind of, work around that. But I didn't know too. I wanted to talk a little bit about. I want to talk a little bit about Lou Moore, one of your clients. The guy is an absolute stud. I was digging in, doing a little bit of research of the clients you're working with this year. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you're working with 6 clients going into the draft, correct?
yeah, some behind the scene that I'm helping as well, but yeah, 6 that we've been committed to since December, January.
Awesome, yeah. But I was digging in. Obviously, like you were talking about with Indiana, you're working with Lou Moore, who is one of their safeties over there. Second in all of FBS and interceptions, had 6 on the year. The guy is a heat-seeking missile. I mean, we're over at the Bears, we're looking for players that Dennis Allen just came in here last year with Ben Johnson. He likes players that, fly to the ball, are rallying, hit hard. And I mean, dude, this guy ran a 4.46 40-yard dash. Like I said, first team, all Big Ten conference, started all 16 games, knows how to stay healthy. And this guy, I mean, he just flies around the field. And I mean, can you tell me a little bit more about him? How has it been working with him and, getting him ready for the draft as well? Because, I mean, this guy, I turn on his tape and he just looks like a player that's ready to, knock somebody's head off.
Yeah, absolutely. He's got a really cool story. He is an older prospect, but he's got a really unique story, is the best way to put it. He actually didn't play varsity football until his senior year of high school, I think, and went to JUCO playing wide receiver. And that's all I need to know from an NFL scout perspective, because you go watch his Maryland interception. I think that is one of the most athletic plays I've ever seen a safety make, and that's not me trying to be biased. I can name one other interception that rivals it, and that was Kyle Hamilton's Notre Dame early 22-23 versus FSU, one of those years. But anyways, I think like his athletic ability to his ball skills alone from being a wide receiver translates so well in the secondary that it would not shock me for him to make some sort of all-rookie team with him having 4 or 5 plus interceptions his first year in the NFL. His ability to track the ball, be in the right position at the right time, 0 penalties this year.
Wow.
88 tackles, and his journey to have the season he had to be an All-American. If you don't know Lou personally, then you don't know what he's really gone through in his career. But like JUCO, had a torn ACL early in JUCO ball, walked on to Indiana or got a scholarship, one of those 2 stories there. We got to Indiana early in 22, special teams reserve safety. 2023, their last year before Signetti got there, he had 83 tackles, 3 picks, 3 forced fumbles. Day Kirk Signetti was hired, he transferred to Ole Miss, got into a really deep secondary room with a very, very offensive-minded head coach. Ended up with only like 37 tackles, fumble recovery, something like that at Ole Miss. Him and I were talking in 2024, mind you. He was going to come out for the draft. Diego Pavia gets the extra year because of the JUCO. Who played JUCO for 2 years? Lou Moore. He said, I'm going back to school because of this Pavia ruling. He's like, I think he had a couple different offers at the portal, but once Indiana picked up the phone and called him, it was a no-brainer. Went right back to Bloomington, and obviously that was an excellent decision for him. Played his butt off this year. Like I said, to me, like I said, I am biased towards him. I do think he's one of the better safeties in this class. I think you take away the age factor or something of that nature. Like, he can play football. He's a football player. He has insane ball skills. A couple of those interceptions he had this year were on tip drills, but they all came in big games. The Maryland interception, like I said, was an uber athletic play. Game-sealing pick against Iowa in a really close game. Game-sealing pick against Oregon in the regular season that pretty much sealed the deal for them. Interception that almost returned for 6 in the Big 12 championship that set the tone early. Guy's a tone setter. Guy's like you said, heat-seeking missile. Goes down. He's not afraid to tackle. If you watch Indiana football, I watched all 16 games, went to a few. Seven's by the ball every freaking play. Like, yeah, if Seven's in the game and you're watching on TV, 90% of the time you're going to see Seven in the play, even if he's the fourth guy on the pile pushing somebody back. He's a football player. And then off the field, like, he took the training process very, very seriously, working out 2 or 3 times a day. A week after he wins a national championship, he's moved into his temporary housing in Florida for his pre-draft training, and he's into it. He didn't get like any time to really kind of get into that like celebration and stuff. He went national championship, Shrine Bowl, Indiana Parade, prepare for the pre-draft process, combine for a week, went back, pro day, visits, meetings, and now he's finally home for a couple weeks as he continues to keep his body in shape for early day 3 selection, we'll call it.
Yeah, no, he definitely stood out to me, and it's funny that you talk like the first thing you brought up was about that interception. I actually was telling my dad, I was like, before we got on here a couple of days ago, when I was digging in with the prospects you're working with going into the draft night, and I was telling him, I'm like, most people in college, they get these interceptions where the quarterback either underthrows, overthrows, and it's kind of just right in their lap. Every single one of his interceptions, like you said, it's tipped, and I mean, it is an athletic play, him diving. A lot of times too, you still see it in the NFL, even off these tip drills. They think they caught the ball, then they show the replay, and it's not even close. But this guy, and it makes sense now that you say that he used to play wide receiver in JUCO. I mean, this guy's hands are unreal. I remember when I was watching the tape, and I'm just like, I told my dad, I was like, this guy's just not making interceptions that are just thrown right to him. I mean, he's having to work every inch for these interceptions. Ball's getting redirected. He's making almost every single one of them. He's catching a diving ball that you have to make sure your hands are underneath it. Otherwise, it's called an incomplete, and the team's getting the ball back. So the guy just is a freak athlete. And like I said, my favorite part, I love watching guys, shout out to Jaquan Brisker. He's home in Pittsburgh now. We will miss him over here in Chicago. But, dude, I love seeing safeties that are not afraid to get their head in the play and just come flying downhill. And watching him on film, that's what stood out to me. The guy is just, like you said, he's always around the ball. He's good in coverage. He probably understands it a lot better because he used to be a wide receiver. And then, like you said, he's not afraid to get in the box and go play the run game as well. I've seen him plenty of times. He's got an old lineman coming, pulling across the screen to come block him, and he's right shedding the block and blowing up the guy in the backfield. So it's just, he was definitely one player that, you had going in that I really wanted to talk about you with, because he's just electric to watch when I turned on the tape.
Yeah. Sounds like we need to call the Bears.
I mean, I'm telling you, if we need a safety, we got Kobe Bryant, Kevin Byard, and Jaquan Brisker are gone.
Round pick.
I was about to say, you never know. It will be super cool. It would be like all worlds come together kind of thing. It'd be super cool to see something like that happen. Because, I mean, I feel like any of those Indiana players on defense this year, you can't go. I mean, they all were flying around that football, just making plays. And Kurt Cignetti is going to be the next Nick Saban. It looks like. I mean, when you start flipping programs like that, that's where people, they don't need to know anything else. You're going to offer me, I'm going to play for a coach like that. And I like his attitude too. He's a little cocky. He's got chip on his shoulder. And I mean, when he says, just Google me, I mean, that guy, all he does is win wherever he goes. And to flip a program, like you said, Drew, the year before they're 3-9 and they flipped their program literally right on top of its head, kind of like what we saw with Ben Johnson. And hopefully it continues that trend. But I want to talk one more thing with you about one of your other prospects as well, who I think is another player. I don't know if the Bears, we kind of are stacked on linebackers now after free agency, but this Jack Dingle guy out of Cincinnati is another guy who is just an absolute monster. The biggest thing that stood out to me when I was looking up his RAS score, for you viewers out there that don't know, these are a big thing where when these players do this combine, they rank him with this RAS score on a scale of 10. He was tied for the third best out of all the linebackers this year, just behind Sonny Styles and his other teammate, Jack. I think his name's Jack Golday. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but this is another you can back me up, Drew, or tell me if I'm wrong, but this is a deep linebacker class. There's a lot of good linebackers on this class. I mean, just off the top of my head, you got Texas Tech, Jacob Rodriguez out there as well, another great player. But for him to test this high, he tested for you out there, for you people out there, a 9.81 out of 10 on his RAS score, which is just through the charts. And to be behind players like Sonny Styles, I mean, Sonny Styles is going in the top 5 of this draft. He's just an elite player, but he was another one that stood out to me, just really downhill football player, attacks the run game exceptionally. He was just another one that I really liked that you guys got going into the draft this week or next week coming up.
Yeah. I love Jack, man. Most down-to-earth guy I've ever talked to in my life, maybe outside of one of my other guys, Rocky. But, dude, Jack's a funny guy. Every bit of 6'4", 235-pound, like traditional inside linebacker, called plays on the defensive side of the ball for the last 2 years. I think the only knock, like I was talking to a team today on him, his only knock is he didn't have 100 tackles at linebacker. I guess his teammate, Jake Golday, did have 100 linebackers, and that's why Jake is projected to be a day 2 pick. Jack, to me, is going to have a very long career in the NFL. He's 22, turns 23 in May. He is, like I said, he's your prototypical size linebacker, uber athletic, has all the traits, young, coachable, great personality. He's going to step into an organization. He's probably going to be a really good linebacker through preseason games, see him pop as a linebacker in preseason games, and then probably make a team as a core teamer. I'm projecting him day 3 of the draft right now, just based on he's popping off. He's getting hot at the right time, essentially. We've had a couple 30 visits with teams, just finished his last one today. He's had the calls, he's had the interest. He's an intriguing prospect. He's not a guy anybody really knew about until now. Like, he had an all-star game, was at the American Bowl. I knew about him. That's why he's here. It's why he's with us. And it's really cool to see his name really start to pop off now, because now was the right time for it to get hot with NFL teams and people calling me going, I didn't know there were 2 Jake Golday-sized athletic linebackers at Cincinnati. I was like, yes. And this one actually called plays in defense. No offense to Jake, but like Jack called plays. He's a smart guy. He can command an NFL defense if need be. You're in week 16, your starting linebacker goes down. Jack can step in there. I have no doubt in him. He's a smart guy, and he's going to help elevate your team. And what more can you ask for? A guy that can run a 4.5 sideline to sideline at that speed. He can cover tight ends. You can put a tight end on his butt, or he can cover the running back out of the backfield, stuff the run, chase the quarterback. You name it, jack of all trades is what he can do on the defense. So.
Yeah, no, he's
Jack, man. Jack's my boy. My entire draft class this year, I couldn't ask for a better 6 guys. They're a great group of guys. I believe in all of them to the moon and back. I think all of them have an opportunity to play at the next level. Hoping to hear at least 2 of their names called, and a couple of guys that signed UDFA deals here in 8 or 9 days, which is crazy to say. It's been a world timeline.
And UDFA is nothing to be ashamed of. There's plenty of them. I mean, us as Bears fans, we got 2 of them we can talk about right off the bat. I mean, Jade Walker last year out of Texas A&M, wide receiver. This guy made one of the biggest catches of our season right before the playoffs to secure our playoff spot. Tyson Bagent, he's getting ready. Next year, there's teams already calling to get him as their starting quarterback this year. The Bears just have a higher trade value that they want for him. He'll be gone next year starting. UDFA is another chip to put on that shoulder and put your head down and keep working. And when your number's called, I'm sure, these people will take advantage of it. But honestly, man, it kind of blows my mind a little bit what you said in the beginning with, the biggest knock they have on this guy is he didn't have 100 tackles like his teammate. But when you have 2 stud linebackers like that, you'd think these GMs would be a little bit more smarter. You got 2 stud linebackers like that, they're gonna take some tackles away from each other, and that's just how it goes. But this is just super awesome. I'm glad we were able to get to talk to you, man. It was super cool to learn behind the scenes because, to be honest, coming into this, I had a glimpse or an idea in my head of what kind of goes on behind the scenes in all of this. But honestly, just to hear your perspective on this was just really cool. And I appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. And I'm sure my dad does too. I don't know, Dad, you got any other questions you want to fire off here before we let Jack get out of here?
Yeah,
or Drew, sorry, my fault.
We're good.
What's that?
I actually called him Jack because we were talking about Jack. But
I just want to say, the players that you are representing, they're lucky to have you, right? The whole conversation you had talking about specializing in athlete care and the pride and passion you have for your athletes that you represent, they truly are lucky to have you. And just listen to you talk about not only the 2 that, hearing their name called, or the undrafted free agents and what they're going to do. As I'm sitting here doing mostly listening through this whole process, just as I'm soaking in another element of the whole draft day deal. Like, I love watching the draft, but to hear this kind of behind the scenes stuff that happens and your knowledge on it, all I can say is they're truly lucky to have someone like you working with them and taking them through this process, navigating like you talked about. And for anyone out there listening, I'm sure if you drop a comment, we can get you in touch with Drew through this whole process if that's something that you're in the stage of. But I thank you for your time tonight. I mean, truly remarkable experience to be able to talk to you, get more insider information as, with this sport that I think, so many people love. Either, they're diehards or they're a casual fan. But nonetheless, what an experience to just listen to you tell your story and what you've accomplished to get to this stage of the game that you're in now, and how you're going to continue to grow this for many years to come. I think that's, invaluable time you spent with us today. And I thank you so much for that. And I wish you nothing but the best, not only, leading up to draft night, but also the draft nights. And then for many, many years to come, because I think anyone who goes with the Athlete Factory and you as the leader of that is really getting the best of everything. Just listening to your story and knowing what you've went through and how you've worked to achieve what you've gotten. So thank you again very, very much for visiting with us tonight and kind of talking to us through the whole process.
Absolutely. Appreciate you guys having me on. It's my first podcast I've ever done. Not even lying about that. That's the first one. So appreciate you guys having me on. But yeah, thank you for those kind words. I appreciate it. It's definitely been a journey to build it. I've learned to enjoy the journey and enjoy the wins and keep working at it. And I look forward to what these next 8, 9, 10 days have. And hopefully when you call me on April 27th, April 28th, I can tell you all the great stories about what happened on the draft weekend.
Yeah, no, I'll tell you from my perspective, and I'm sure my dad will back me up, but you gained a fan in me tonight. We'll be rooting for you and your players come draft night. I've done a little bit of research behind the scenes of just the players, and I'm rooting for all of them. Honestly, I'm one of those people, when I get attached, I'm attached, and you got a fan in me, and I'll definitely be rooting for you. And I'm glad we were able to be your first podcast, and I can guarantee you'll be on plenty more down the line. So thank you again. It was an absolute pleasure. For our viewers out there, all Jack's socials will be down in the description below.
Socials.
Oh, sorry. I keep saying Jack. Drew's socials will be down below. I'll also put down there your guys' Athlete Factory page down there as well. Be sure to check that out. It was super cool. You can follow along with the NIL stuff, the athletes that they're working with, the draft prospects. It was really cool just to go through your guys' social media and see everything behind the scenes. But thanks again, Drew, for coming on here. I really appreciate it. If you don't got anything else you want to say on the way out, then I think we're all good here.
Now, before you close this out, and we'll let Drew close out with anything he wants. Drew, we have a custom that we do here at the very end. If you've watched any of our podcasts, we end it with bear down, right? But being that you're a Jacksonville Jaguar fan, and we know all the controversy with the new coach they got last year, we kind of switched the whole Duval thing. Has it changed in Jacksonville since he's been there, where they say it the way he does now, or is he adapting to the way it's supposed to be?
The Duval? No, I think you still hear it sometimes. That's definitely how I say Duval now, because saying Duval the way we do is definitely a very obnoxious Duval. So we like the little Duval. So he said it real subtle. That's funny. I kind of forgot about it until you just brought that up. So it's funny. You kind of you see everything now, and it's crazy.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. When he did that, I thought his coaching career was done for. But he proved everyone wrong. He shut everyone up quick because he was quickly a meme going around before the NFL season started. But he had a great season, and I'm happy for you as a Jaguars fan. You guys are on the AFC side, so it doesn't matter too much to me. But happy that you guys got a coach over there that you guys can believe in, and someone that's bringing the best out in Trevor, because for a while he was kind of getting his name harped on, and believe me, we've experienced that with Caleb. It's still like that. I mean, last year I think more people finally started to shut up, but it's cool to see these athletes prove people wrong, especially when they're representing your team. So good luck in the draft, like we already said, and hopefully a good Jaguar season for you as well as a fan.
Appreciate it. I'm a players fan now.
Yeah, I'm sure you got. Yeah, when these players get drafted, you just got to. Yeah,
man.
Yeah.
So
awesome. Well, thanks again, Drew. We definitely appreciate it. We will take you out in Bears fashion. You don't got to join in with us, but you can be here for the culture of it. We will catch you on the next episode. But for now, Bears.